morning I would like to read to you from the Gospel of Luke, the 24th chapter, verses 13 to 32. And that very day, two of them were going to a village named SemHeights, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all those things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What is this conversation which you are holding with each other as you walk?" And they stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, named Cleopas, answered, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there these days?" And he said to them, "What things?" And they said to him, "Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this happened. Moreover, some women of our company amazed us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. And they came back saying that they had even seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said. But him they did not see. And he said to them, "O foolish men, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets had spoken. Was it not necessary that Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all the scripture the things concerning himself. So they drew near to the village to which they were going. He appeared to be going further, but they constrained him, saying, "Stay with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is now far spent." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took the bread and blessed, and broke it, and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished out of their sight. They said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures?" This is the word of God for the people.
Thanks be to God.
Well, you may have heard this passage before. It's often called the Walk to Emmaus story, where these two individuals who were disciples of Jesus Christ were walking along on Easter, the very first Easter, talking about all the things that happened. So this comes after Jesus has been crucified on the cross, taken down, buried, and then that morning, he had risen from the dead. And the women had gone and tried to find him, couldn't, saw the tombs open. Angels told them that he'd risen from the dead. They ran back and told the apostles. Peter and John were running to see for themselves, see that he's gone. And so these two disciples are walking along later that day, talking about the amazing things that happened. It's interesting because they're walking along and run into Jesus. They don't realize it's Jesus. They run into him and begin talking to him. And they tell Jesus all about Jesus. I don't know that Jesus learned anything from this conversation, but they knew a lot of the facts about Jesus. They knew the miracles that he'd done, the things that he had taught, places he'd gone. They knew the story of his crucifixion, death, burial. Now they heard about his resurrection. They apparently went on and on, telling Jesus all the facts about him. And then Jesus sort of gets into business about not understanding beforehand that this all was supposed to happen to the Messiah. Why are you so surprised by this? Didn't you know this had to happen? Well, then they get to where they're going, and he seems to want to go on, continue where he's going. But they ask him to stick around and stay with them and continue to talk, so he does. And so he eats with them. And he takes the bread and breaks it. This is the first communion. The first time that the sacrament is offered after it is first done at the Lord's Supper, at the Last Supper. And so, as soon as he offers them the sacrament of Holy Communion, something happens in them, and their eyes are opened, and they realize that this is Jesus. They are sitting with Jesus. That he is there, next to them, with them, walking with them, talking with them. This is him. Just like happened with them, we believe that every time someone comes forward and receives the sacrament of Holy Communion, God does something in your life. Something in your soul in a spiritual way. It's a mystery, you don't always understand what it is, but God does something in this powerful sacrament today, just like he did back then. And in that moment, their eyes were opened, and they saw that they didn't just know about Jesus. Now they knew him, and were with him, and he was present with them. My experience is that it's a lot easier to know about Jesus than to know Jesus. You ever experienced the difference between those two things? I'll tell you, know who knows a lot about Jesus? Atheists. They can argue with you till the day, as long as you can stay awake for it. They'll know all kinds of facts about Jesus, about the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament. In fact, Satan knows a lot about Jesus. Knows a lot about the Bible. Actually, close difference, it seems, between knowing a lot about Jesus and knowing Jesus. These two guys who are walking along, apparently they were his disciples, had heard him speak, had seen what he was doing. They knew a lot about him. And in that moment, they see the difference. It's not just knowing about him, now it is knowing him, being with him. It's an amazing age today, isn't it? If you want to know something about anything, you just Google it, and the internet is just waiting to throw facts and information at you more than you can handle. You can become an expert on all kinds of things. I brought an example today. You may have noticed. I have the Mona Lisa here. Now, don't be alarmed. It isn't the actual Mona Lisa. In fact, you know how I know that? Because when you go on, really? Friends, it is amazing how well stuff works when you're not here. When you were walking in, it was working great. Wow. I'm just gonna say, haha, okay. So when you order this on Amazon, there's lots of them that will say this. This is This is a copy of the painting, not the original. You know why that's there? At some point, someone thought they were getting a great deal, and they bought this. They were like, "Oh man, I want my money back." So now they put that on there to make sure everyone's clear. It's not the actual Mona Lisa. Hope you don't mind. I don't know if the original word is. Well, wait a second. I'll come to that later. So let's think of some facts about the Mona Lisa, right? So it was painted around 1503, 1506. Painted by, anyone know?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Got it. Trivia, Wednesday, 6 o'clock. So, by Leonardo da Vinci, he was in Italy at the time and then moved to France to get with him. When he died, he left to his assistants, along with many other of his paintings, and it was then sold to King Francis I of France, and he hung it in his palace. And it stayed there for generations. It wasn't really a painting that stood out among others in the French king's palace, but it was there until Louis XIV moved it to his palace that he liked to stay in, the Palace of Versailles. And it stayed there until the French Revolution, at which time lots of stuff from the Palace of Versailles got removed. So they then moved the Mona Lisa to Napoleon's bedroom, where it stayed for a little while, before they put it in the Louvre, and it arrived there late 18th century. So then, it was there for almost 100 years, until one day, 1911, dun dun dun, it was stolen. And they came in one day to the Louvre and they saw, oh, something's missing. And they realized it was the Mona Lisa. Now you can see at the time it was just in a row of paintings, among others, didn't really stand out a whole lot. But, so in 1911, it's stolen, and this art heist makes the Mona Lisa way more famous than it was before. And they interview everyone they can think of who might have possibly had anything to do with stealing the Mona Lisa. Even Pablo Picasso got dragged in to talk to see if he stole the Mona Lisa. He didn't, but he brought it in anyway. So they ask all these people, and they can't find it, and so they go without the Mona Lisa for 2 years. Until finally, some guy tries to sell it to the Uffizi Museum in Italy. And so, big mistake there. So they caught him and turned him in. The Uffizi Museum did display the Mona Lisa for about 3 weeks, just to get their money's worth once they got it, but then they returned it to the Louvre in 1913, and it's been there ever since. Now, a few people have tried to get after it and to damage it. One person threw acid on it one time, in like 1956 or so. Another person threw a rock at it, and those two things damaged it. So then they put it behind bulletproof glass, which is where it is today. My brother went and saw it one time, and so that's as close as you get actually to the Mona Lisa. But it's behind this big glass thing there now. Quite an upgrade from where it used to be. So the Mona Lisa was returned though to the Louvre, and now put behind bulletproof glass, so that at one time when a woman threw red paint at it, the Mona Lisa was fine. And then a lady later on after that in the 70s went to the gift shop, bought a porcelain teacup from the Louvre gift shop, and threw it at the Mona Lisa to try to break it. But it was also porcelain teacup proof, so it was still safe. And so the Mona Lisa is currently behind bulletproof glass today in the Louvre in France. Now, you can know a lot about the Mona Lisa, right? I told you things for like 1 minute, 2 minutes here, and already, maybe you know that already, but there's lots to know about the Mona Lisa. There's lots to know about lots of things. And just because you know a lot about Jesus Christ does not make you a disciple of Jesus Christ. It is not enough to be able to recite facts like an encyclopedia about Jesus to be his disciple. The vast difference you see between the disciples who are walking with him, telling him about himself, and the ones that are there when he leaves after they realize that it's him, is extraordinary. They realize they're not just talking about him, they're talking to him. And that's vastly different. And I'll tell you that I think sometimes pastors are part of the problem. We often recite facts about the Bible. A lot of us are pretty Bible nerdy. You've been in my classes sometimes, and I can recite facts for a long, long time. I find it interesting to recite some of those facts. Hopefully you find it at least half as interesting at hearing them as I find telling them, because you hear them a lot. But it's pretty easy to get talking about the facts and miss the value of talking to the person we're talking about. So John Wesley talked about the ways that we could experience the grace of God. See, God offers a relationship with us because of His grace. He does not look at our resume and say, wow, I need someone like that on my team. No, He looks at us and all of our brokenness and loves us anyway. Not because of who we are, but because of who He is. That's who God is. God is a God that has an infinite capacity to love us and offer us grace. Overcoming all the things that are wrong with us, to reveal Himself to us. And of all the ways He could have chosen to reveal Himself to us, He chose to reveal Himself to us in Jesus Christ. And so He steps into this world to show us who He is. Even though He knew that if He showed Himself to us in the flesh, we would actually get rid of Him, because we would not be able to handle it. He loved us enough, showed us enough grace, wanted a relationship with us enough, to where He came into this world Himself to reveal Himself to us. God reveals Himself to us in Jesus Christ. God reveals Himself to us in Jesus Christ. So He came here to form a relationship with us. So there's an obscure piece of the scriptures that appears right after Jesus dies on the cross. Maybe you've noticed it before. It's so it's like a movie cuts away to another scene for a second. It shows the curtain in the temple that separated the holiest place in the temple away from the rest of the temple. Because in the middle, most holy place was the place where they believed that God actually resided. He actually was in there. The only person allowed to go in there was the high priest. He could go in there once a year, and if he did go in there, they would tie a rope to his foot to pull him out in case he died, because no one else could go in there. It was that sacred. It was called the Holy of Holies. It was the holiest spot they had. And the scripture says that when Jesus dies, the curtain in the temple is torn in two. So this barrier that existed, where you had to have a priest go between God and the people to have that relationship, now that curtain was torn apart. And now we have this access to God. That was revolutionary among every religion out there ever. The thought of there being no separation. The thought of not having to go to some special place to be in God's presence, but to be in God's presence wherever you are. What a revolutionary idea. Everybody, all the gods of that time had buildings you had to go to, or stairs you had to climb. They're kind of like this one. All these things that you had to go and locate and do to get into God's presence. But this is a story of God's presence coming to us. Unprecedented in the history of the world for God to go to that much trouble to have a relationship with His people. But God reveals Himself to us in Jesus Christ. He forges a relationship with us in Jesus Christ. And you can know facts about Him all day long. But until you do what Wesley encourages us to do, we will never have the chance to really experience the reason that God came to reveal Himself to us in Jesus Christ. Wesley said that as we spend time in prayer, spend time studying the Scriptures, spend time in worship, spend time in a small group, spend time serving, being generous, as we do the things that facilitate our relationship with God. We grow to know Him better and better and better. Our friendship with Him becomes more and more intimate. But we cannot be satisfied with just knowing facts about Jesus. We can't be satisfied with having a Jesus fish on your car. Can't be satisfied with having gone to church a lot of times. I have friends who will report to me their attendance at their churches because I'm the police, the first down, I guess. But and I have one guy tell me, well, I didn't go to church this week, but I went to a funeral earlier. That counts, right? Yeah, let me get my records out. Make sure I write it down for you. We so miss the point so easily by jumping through all these hoops to look the part and play the role. When God does not want all these things. He doesn't want us to jump through hoops. He wants us to be His friend. He wants us to bring Him with us into our schools, our workplace, the vacations we go on. He wants to be with us and be a part of our lives. He wants to have us follow Him to see where He is going, to see the difference that He is making and be a part of it. To be a champion at Bible trivia is worthless if you do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. There was this girl who was born in Florence, Italy, in 1476. Her name was Lisa Ghirardelli, and I don't think she's related to the chocolate people, but she was born to this family that was pretty average. They had enough, not too much, but they had a pretty normal life. She was one of several children, but she was the only girl. And so her family fell into hard times, and her dad began selling things to make ends meet and trying to do what he could to help have their family survive. Well, eventually, a fairly wealthy silk merchant comes through town, and he offers to give Lisa Ghirardelli's dad a plot of land if he will allow him to marry her. And she was 15 years old at the time. Now, at that time, it wasn't totally uncommon to have people getting married a lot younger than they do today. But however you feel about it, this happens to this girl. And so she gets married to this wealthy silk merchant, and her family gets this land, and their fortunes turn around. And they're able to make it because of what she did. Now, she goes on to be married to this guy, and she has 6 children. He dies and widows her at a relatively young age. She then goes on to live until she's about 60, and then she died, and she was buried in Florence. Now, that's, I'm not excited about that happening to her since I'm a parent of a 15-year-old girl. That wasn't a totally uncommon kind of experience for a family to have in the 16th century. What makes it remarkable is that in 2003, a book was sold to a museum. And so the museum staff were looking at the book, and they were going through it, and they found a note that was tucked into the book. The note was written back in the 16th century by a friend of Lisa Ghirardelli's husband. The note said that, believe it or not, he had gotten Leonardo da Vinci to paint a picture of his wife as a gift to her. And so he said, wow, how interesting. So, and the note was dated, and they knew where and when it had been written. So they looked back to see what he might have been working on at the time. And the painting that they knew he was working on at the time, they didn't know who it was of. It's the Mona Lisa. And so now, pretty much just about every art expert in the world now agrees that this Lisa Ghirardelli is the Mona Lisa. They actually found her gravesite. They exhumed her body and did this 3D radioactive mapping thing of her face to be able to recreate like a model of her to see what it would have looked like and to compare. They buried her in a new like place of honor with the markers and everything to show this is Mona Lisa buried here. But I gotta be honest with you, when I first heard that story, and I mean how neat to find this note tucked away in a 500-year-old book of all things. But I tell you that this picture, this painting, is different to me now that I know who it is of, what her story was. That her husband actually talked Leonardo da Vinci into painting this of her. And so you can wonder, how is it going? This arranged marriage that she's in. How many of the kids has she had so far? Where do they live? What does their life become like? The idea of knowing all about this painting is one thing, but when you know who the person is, and you know facts, and you know the life of this person, well, that gives meaning to it. When you know a lot about Jesus, there's nothing wrong with that. But knowing a lot about Jesus does not change your life. Knowing Jesus changes your life. Having a relationship with Him changes your life. People who have relationships with Jesus Christ change the world because of the way that Jesus Christ works through us in the lives of others. I'll close with a word of testimony and confession. You all have been very graceful to have me over as your pastor for the last 3 years, and as my various things have not worked, you've usually smiled and nodded at me. Occasionally give me some feedback on your notes, and I appreciate that. But you've been very gracious in allowing me to succeed and fail in pretty much equal measure so far. But I will confess that when I got here, I had been a staff member at pretty large churches. Had thousands of members, lots of services, and lots of money, and all that kind of thing. And I thought, you know what? Whenever I go to my first church, and I'm the pastor, I'm going to get that place rocking in about 15 minutes. And so it took a while for me to realize that it doesn't matter what I do. There are plenty of pastors who have lasted about 15 minutes because they were doing all that they could without Jesus. I'll tell you that everything about being the pastor here that's gone well has been unplanned and has been a miracle that came from Jesus. The things that I work really hard on and try to make happen just the way that I want them to happen, those almost never go well. Usually involve something that I try to install back there. But all the things that I try to do and work really hard, get it to do just right, none of those come out nearly as well as the things that are just miracles that get dropped out of the sky by God. And so I go back and I pray, well, Lord, thank you for that. That wasn't in my plan. See, the best things that we produce in this world come when there is less of us and more of Jesus. When we really screw up, when we commit sin, when we get selfish, is when there's a whole lot of us, not a whole lot of Jesus. So we're going to have a time of response now, and I'm going to encourage you to take stock of the difference in your life between how much you know about Jesus and what kind of intimate friend you are in a relationship with Jesus. What is your prayer life like? Do you have a sense that Jesus walks with you everywhere you go and orders your steps with you and is making a difference through you? Not because of you, because of how interesting and fascinating and well-spoken and wise and smart you are, but because of how loving and kind and gracious and powerful He is. What is your relationship with Jesus like? Are you following Him, trusting that the best place for you is as close to Him as possible? Or is He just a fish in the back of your car? Is He an event you spend an hour in on Sundays? A lot of people go to the event on Sundays. And I know you might have been cut off by the person who has the Jesus fish in the back of their car. None of those things mean an ounce of difference without an intimate friendship with Jesus Christ that's facilitated by prayer, by reading the scriptures, expecting them to change us, by being a part of a small group, expecting to meet Jesus in the lives of others that are around you, without being a servant, without being generous, without being in worship together on Sundays. Again, not because it's just your habit, but because you expect to meet Jesus there. So, I don't know where your relationship with Jesus is today. Maybe it's great, and you're ready to hear what's next. Maybe it's never started. Maybe you could win Bible trivia, but you have no idea what it's like to actually have a friendship with Jesus Christ. Or maybe you used to have one, and now it's sort of faded to the background, kind of like that second grade friend that you have on Facebook. Maybe it used to be there, but it's not there anymore. Wherever your relationship, wherever your friendship with Jesus Christ is, I'm going to invite you to come down to the altar and pray. It's a great place to step up and approach the presence of God, to make a decision to step forward and go closer to Him. I know I always say, I can hear you if you pray in your seat. But believe me, there is something powerful about getting up and going forward. So I invite you to take that courageous step of faith, to step forward and make a decision to be closer to Him than you were yesterday. Making those kinds of decisions, to take steps closer and closer to Jesus Christ, through prayer, through knowing the Scriptures, through being in worship together on Sunday morning and in a small group and serving and being generous. All those things work together to foster a relationship between Him and us that will equip us to do far more miraculous, amazing things in this world than we could possibly hope to do on our own. I can tell you, doing it on your own doesn't get it done. The best stuff is when you can look back on your life and tell the stories of how God came through for you in an amazing, miraculous way, totally overcoming the best plans you made to show everyone His plans instead. That is the best stuff about faith in Jesus Christ. And those are the stories that you want to be able to tell ad nauseum someday when you look back on the life that you spent as an intimate friend of Jesus Christ. So I invite you to come forward. Not just knowing about Him, but knowing Him. And letting your relationship with Him grow to become one of the best friendships you have. Let's pray together.